analysis that we are running on social media and the things that we are looking for out there in the environment. And what we're seeing, I didn't want to really talk about it until that full data set was back and we had the time to pore over it. But what we're seeing right now really lines up with what individuals are telling Kelly and telling me on a personal level. They are at their wits' end. A lot of them are contemplating things like harm. They're contemplating things like no longer having a will to survive, no longer having a will to continue with the American way of life. And this is lining up exactly with what we're seeing in sentiment analysis. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, I'll give a real quick recap. So sentiment analysis is where you take a large data set of individuals, a large data set of what they're talking about, and you use a dictionary that looks for specific keywords that have driving sentiment. Things like, I hate this. Things like, you can't do this. That's, of course, a sentiment that aligns itself with anger or action or preemptive action. And so we categorize these into very different parts of the dictionary, and we start to look for values and things that really make sense on what is going to drive people to do what's next. That is what we have ran since the beginning. We started seeing it way before the riots, way before the protests a couple of years ago. We started seeing it before the Occupy Wall Street protest, and we see it with new and improved analysis today. So what are people actually going to do? Well, a lot of what we're hearing from individuals lines up with what we're seeing in sentiment analysis, and that is that people are ready to act. They're either ready to act on an individual level, which I could argue to say we're starting to see with all these mass violent events taking place where people are just creating harm against innocent or reportedly innocent civilians. This is a really dangerous time because it draws a line between your safety and your way of life. You might think going to the grocery store is safe. You might think sending your kids to school is safe. You might think driving to work is safe. And at any point in time during these normal day-to-day operations, you might find yourself in a life-threatening position. This is becoming more commonplace. It's becoming more prevalent because people have crossed that line in their own ability to cope and handle reality for the way it is. This is getting worse. And so my urgent action for you and your family is to understand just how bad things are and be prepared to act and react. There's that first set of the rule of threes that isn't often talked about, but I've always coined it as 3 moments to react to impending violence. Now, 3 moments, 3 milliseconds, 3 whatever you want to call it. The 3 is really just a coinage of the phrase for the rule of threes. But what it means is you have to be ready to act at a literal moment's notice.